Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business Spotlight series. My name is Claudia Thompson and today I'm here with Marcus Woolley, Company Director of Ideal Financial Solutions in Poole. Welcome to the show, Marcus.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for having me along.
Yeah, and I can't wait to hear all your insights, but why don't you start and give us a bit of an idea how you got to become the Company Director of Ideal Financial Solutions?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Basically, been in financial services for a number of years now, probably over 30 years. Initially worked in general insurance, motor car, home insurance, that sort of thing. Worked my way up to working for a large corporate national company initially on the mortgage protection insurance side of things. Gained my initial qualifications for that through them. And as a lot of people do, went to work for a local, more independent company. Long and short, without boring anybody, the two partners in the business pretty much went in different directions. So I had the opportunity to muscle in between and take over the firm, which was probably about 12 years ago now. And then one of the first things I did was update the website, which at that time was coming pretty big thing to do, just to be informative and professional looking. And then we turned the company limited back in February 2014, so 10 years ago now. Been a lot of change, both personally and in the industry, so a lot of it for the better. And yeah, that's where we are.
Cool. And you said it yourself there, you've been around for over 10 years, which is a feat that a lot of companies and businesses, unfortunately, can't claim for themselves. But what do you think is your secret?
The ability to change and adapt, keep up with the times, diversify, can't be a one-trick pony. Um, Possibly one of the best lessons I learned, I mentioned earlier, went into mortgages. I now do more diverse, personally financial advice. And that was probably purely due to the financial crisis of 2008, 2009, I think it was. And literally the floor collapsed on mortgages and sort of like had to look at it and think, well, if we don't do something else different now, not going to survive. So that was before we were limited, but I think it's the best thing that ever happened because I've got further qualifications. I'm able to do other sort of things now. It's enabled me to build a value to the business. So yeah, so I think and even in that time, still got a very similar business model, but we try to identify what the best bits of the business model are and obviously concentrate on them. We're very fortunate. We've built up a very loyal customer base, which is obviously important. But we've been able to build that up because we've looked after them and we make hopefully people feel valued, we make friendships. And that people can make a lot of money very quickly in some businesses but have no longevity. Whereas I think we had a very clear plan from the outset. I've still got a fair few years to work. I enjoy working. I want to work. You can very quickly destroy the reputation of a company. So it's all been about, building a good brand, having that longevity and building good, solid relationships. So I think that's been a very good lesson that we've learned over the years. Things change, times change, and you've got to adapt and change with them and keep up with the times, basically.
It's what the CEO of Nokia said a few weeks ago. He said, we didn't do anything wrong, but somehow we lost. So it's a beautiful reminder that really keeping up with the times, making sure you innovate and don't let the market run away with you is a really, really useful reminder.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you look back at this last 3-4 years in particular, there's been so many outside influences. Obviously, COVID, massive effect. Get bored of saying or hearing that word now. But also, Liz Truss did an awful lot of damage this time, 18 months ago. Unbelievably, mortgage rates went up, investments went down, just made our job so difficult. Russia, Ukraine, collapse of American banks. I could go on, but I think what you got to do in both business and in your line of work and those sort of things is stick, stick to a rigid plan. Because although you'll go off piece sort of thing, you stick to that initial plan and you have confidence and trust in it, time will level out, and yeah, you'll get to where you want to get and enjoy the fruits of your labour, basically.
Yeah, and we covered the external factors that influence your business. Let's go internal. What would you say have been your biggest learnings as an employer since starting your business?
As an employer, I'm always a great believer in your strengths and your weaknesses. And one of my strengths is, hopefully, I think anyway, I'm quite relatable and I get on with people, which is great because you then build their confidence and their trust. But then as time progresses, you probably find people start to try and push the boundaries and see how far they can take you. So you've got to be very careful. It's a very fine line between, yes, you get people on board and working for you, then you've got to be careful they don't want to run away with that trust, and then you find yourself actually having bigger problems than you would do anyway. So you always want to keep that divide between employer and employee. You want to say that, let them know who's boss. Because at the end of the day, as a business owner, it's your head above the door. You're the one who, has to make the decisions and stands by those decisions, and quite easily can fall against those as well. So if you've got some rogue advisors or rogue people out there, rogue employees, and then they can just as quickly and easily bring your business down. So yeah, you've got to know that divide. I think that's a really big lesson. But at the same time, also, people can be your biggest asset. So you must make sure you compliment them, praise them, constructive criticism, be able to know when also, right, look, okay, not quite sure about what you've done here, and hope that you have somebody that will react to that in the right way, in the positive way, and if they start to go inward and be moody for a week, then you think, okay, you're not the right person here.
Yeah, and speaking of the right person, what are the qualities you look for when you're hiring?
A mini me. I'm quite short anyway, so if there was many me, like a dwarf. So, although there's a degree of truth in that statement, obviously you'd like somebody to have the work ethic as you. I think you have to appreciate nobody's going to do something quite like you do because they don't have that same ownership, which is fine. But yeah, I like to think people are honest, have a lot of integrity, have a good work ethic, and take that extra step, really. So I think that's what you look for. Again, when you take somebody on, it's very difficult to know in the long term how that's going to work out, because some people can be very good in interviews. So until you get that working relationship and time with somebody, you'll know how that's going to work out long term. And I think if something doesn't work, as difficult as it is, they're not working in your business for you, then I think you have to have some conversations and say to them, is this the right thing for you? Because unfortunately, I have had to say to people, sorry, we're going to have to let you go. You also have to look from their viewpoint as well. If they're getting into these situations, they're probably not enjoying it. So it's probably not the right thing for them. And things always work out for a reason. So it's not like you're doing them a favour by saying, can't keep you on board, but you're letting them explore other challenges that are going to be right for them. So I think you've got to hold that in the back of your mind. It's a difficult job to do, but it's a job that has to be done. And I think the biggest compliment we have is we have had people go, but they've gone on to bigger and better things, maybe. So if we've had a part to play in that, then fantastic. Never hold anybody back.
Yeah. Well, sometimes as a business owner, you have to have some quite difficult conversations and have to face things that maybe are not second nature to you. And one of those things that I find with the businesses that I work is they're terrified of financial management and looking at their numbers. What would you, or what advice would you have for those guys?
You can't afford not to have one eye on those sort of things. You need to know what you've got coming in and what you've got going out, and your cash flow is sufficient for that. You can't take your eye off the ball, and I think that applies even more when there's good times than when there's not, because naturally everybody, you know, like I said, last 2 or 3 years there's been some tough times for people, and you think, okay, right, where are we? Have we got, you know, enough money coming in and that sort of thing, which is fine. That's a natural instinct, but also don't forget to do that when you know, times are thriving, and you know, like I said, we're fortunate. We don't have to be proactive with business. If anything, we're more reactive because we've built up a customer base. But yeah, and also think, you know, you know, you could have large tax bills coming through if you're doing well, to make sure that you're allocating time and money aside for those sort of things. Taxman hits you more and more these days. We're limited, so the tax favorability, you know, not as favorable as it was in the early days. So just no, you can't take your eye off the ball. You've always got to, you know, be thinking, planning ahead, and reviewing those plans as well, seeing what things have changed, and yeah, just keeping up with times and keeping up with the world. Reading is knowledge. You know, anything you can do, go on BBC News websites, find out what's happening in the world, find out what's happening in business. There's some great sources of information out there, so use them.
What advice would you give 13-year younger Marcus that is just about to take on Ideal Financial Solutions?
What if she was to take, somebody was to take this business?
If you were to start the business again, or any advice that you wish you'd known back then?
I don't think we'd have done too much differently. There is a degree of due diligence you have to do, and you know, particularly as like if you step into a business rather than you set it up, I suppose, yeah, you have to see what's gone on before, what's in the background. Is there anything that could be, you know, potentially difficult in years to come? As a new entity, like I say, it's good to have a business plan. Thing I find with business plans, I used to do them on an annual basis, and I'd look back on them and think, wow, what I put down at the start of that year, by the end of it, it was completely different. But then again, you've got to have some sort of targets and some sort of identity. But I just think, yeah, come into it with a positive attitude. Anybody can be a business owner, but being a business owner is not right for everybody. Some people are employers, some people are employees, and there's no right nor wrong. It's just what you find your niche in. And you could be good in your environment, but that doesn't necessarily make you a good business owner, because a business owner is something completely different again, really. So I think, yeah, recognizing where you are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, like I say, and again, possibly your weaknesses are more important than your strengths. You've got to be 100% committed to it, and know and have confidence and be confident. And I think if you can do that, you'll get some ups and downs along the way, but you'll be okay and enjoy it. You know, we all spend what, we said, a third of the day at work, which is probably half of your time awake. You've got to enjoy it, because you know, you haven't got a lot of time otherwise to enjoy things. So yeah, take that on board. Go through clear head, looking to enjoy it, know what you want to achieve, and make changes along the way. Start again at times. You know, we're 10 years in now, and we've probably re-identified ourselves 2 or 3 times, and there's no problem with that, because you know, you're adapting. Yeah.
Cool. No, that's a really, really good summary. Thank you for that. And one of the main differences probably between being an employer and an employee is the clocking off bit in the evening. As an employee, you can just be like, okay, I left the office, that's it, I'm out of it. While as a business owner, you're always on. You're always part of it, is always thinking about it. You might actually work long hours. How do you personally balance your personal life with the demands of running a business?
Yeah, you are right. 24/7 is the job these days, and that's probably become more prominent in the last few years with mobile phones, with laptops, with even Teams and Zoom meetings. Unfortunately, you just have to accept that. That's a sacrifice you have to make and a part of the job. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're probably not in the right environment. Having said that, it is important to balance everything out and differentiate your personal life from your work life. And it is still a long day. And I think, yes, in the early days, you're probably going to have to work more. So you make a sacrifice, your family make a sacrifice as well. But obviously, ultimately, you're doing that for your family, and you're doing it for, again, it's a long old life. It's a long day. It's a long life. So there's going to be years ahead of you when you've laid those foundations and you find you can come off the tools a little bit more, maybe, and hopefully that you'll be able to catch back up on that time. You can't just sit at a desk 24/7 and think you're going to be okay. As much as anybody says, "Oh, that's what I do and I love it," you can't. You've got to separate it up, and you'll stay fresh if you do that. So maybe divide your day up, have little chunks. People working from home now, that's a lot more. That can be great because you haven't got that distance to and from work. So for some people, that can save you 15, 20 minutes, an hour, or even more. So, if you are traveling to work, can you incorporate some of your business day within that work journey? Be flexible on that front. Identify, what you enjoy, what makes you fresh, what other people want from you as well. And don't be afraid about that, because we can always return calls, we can always return emails. It doesn't have to be done here and there. Prioritize them. Again, confidence in your own ability, in what you're doing, and you'll see it through and hopefully come out better than the other side for it all.
So just be clear about your own priorities and be aware of what really matters.
Yeah, absolutely. People may have heard this story before, but I would hate my sons come to me or my daughter come to me and say, "Oh, Dad, how much do you charge an hour?" £100. They go away, they come back in 2 weeks' time. Here's £100, Dad. Can I have an hour of your time, please? So I would hate that. Make time for them. That's your importance. That's what you're doing it for, ultimately. And yes, like I say, you and they have to understand, there's going to be times when you can't do that. But don't go throughout the whole day in the Easter holidays, just literally working. Take an hour or two and sit with them, or go out, have a bike ride with them, do something, take them to something, and they'll love that. That'll make their day.
Yeah.
And that'll make you feel better, and you come back to work with more of a spring in your step, and you'll probably be more productive.
Yeah. But be really present when you're with the people that matter, not just
Absolutely,
like, hey, I'll be with you in a minute.
Yeah. No, don't sort of like, go through the motions of being there and still carrying on doing other things. That's wrong.
And speaking of other people,
yes.
what do you think is like an idea that normal people have about running a business?
Normal people, running a business. I mean, like I say, anybody can run a business. Not everybody would want to, but just I remember speaking to a lady 15 years ago who came to me and said, "Oh, look, I'm thinking of starting doing this." I said, "What do you think?" I said, "Well, you got to do it, because if you don't do it, in 2 years' time, you're going to look back and think, do you know what? We should have done that." And you can never have regrets. Never have any regrets. We'll all make mistakes along the way, and again, that's part and parcel of it. You can make mistakes, learn from them, but don't have regrets. Don't not do something, and then in 2 years' time, because 99% of the time, people go away and do something, and it works out and becomes successful. And if it doesn't, then do you know what? Go back to doing what you're doing. What have you lost?
Yeah.
You've gained something on your TV. You've gained experience. You've realised that's not for you. But I think most of the time, most people will make a success of making a decision. Making a decision is probably the hardest thing, and then going for it.
Yeah, it's almost
Yeah,
like the biggest risk you can take is do nothing.
massively. Yeah, yeah,
It's like we practiced it.
yeah.
And do you find that people have some misconceptions about running a business?
Possibly. I tend not to try and dwell on that sort of thing. And if they do, can you influence that? I think people, people have an opinion, and again, opinions are fine. Everybody's is different. I think you just gotta. If people have misconceptions, I'm not sure what they are, but I respect them. And all I can do is just carry on in my vein, basically. So
yeah, and it sounds like you're doing that very successfully. Thank you so
we have
much.
ups and downs,
Oh,
but that's what it's all
business,
about.
isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And if it's just streamlined, then that's boring anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. There's something wrong then if it's too easy.
Yeah. Someone said to me, I think last week, he said, as a business owner, the lows are lower and the highs are higher.
Yeah, it is a roller coaster. It's a cliche, but it is a roller coaster. And you've got to try and be level. You've got to try and be level as well. Don't get carried away too much with the highs, because those lows could be round the corner. So try and stay level-headed. Have some humility. Be confident but not arrogant. But yeah, believe in yourself. Have belief. Have belief. I think if you have belief and you stick to your principles, then you won't go too far wrong.
That's a beautiful summary. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
How can people find out more about you? How can they get in touch?
We obviously have our website, www.idealfinancialsolutions.co.uk. All our contact information is on there. We do like to educate people, and I know there are actually one or two of my colleagues in other firms around that we have close ties with that are very big in that as well, because we're an aging industry, and we do need some young people, young stars coming through. So it is a good industry to be in. So yeah, hook us up, and whether if we can help them, great. It's our job done for the day.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today, Marcus.
My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.